Hello and welcome back to the channel. This is a part 3 of a series where we discover how a British antique saber cuts. I bought this sword on Etsy and it came unsharpened, so I brought it over to our friends at Birchwood Knife Sharpening who are local to us. I wanted a historical edge on this sword, so I had to do a bit of research, and me and Garret of Birchwood were able to figure out what kind of edge to put on this sword. He had it sharpened and polished in no time, and I was able to get it back in a very timely fashion, and the edge on both the true and false edge were very well done. He started it off by profiling the blade on some sort of a power tool, and then used a stone progression to polish it into a very keen edge. Edges that I'm used to on swords like katanas tend to be a single geometry bevel, but it's very historical for military sabers to have secondary bevels. As prescribed by some of the historical manuals I've read, the bottom third of the sword is unsharpened and it goes into a very smooth transition to the sharpened edge, and partial part of the back edge is sharpened. My very first cut of the day, very smooth. It goes through the milk jugs like nothing. Same can be said about water bottles. My first 2 to 3 cuts with the water bottles, I didn't have any flubs. Going through this large jug, though, was really satisfying. It went through no resistance and cut cleanly, no jagged lines, no nothing. I try a false edge cut on this one, but I aim a little bit high. I was afraid of hitting the stand, I think. I was able to knock the cap off. But check that out. I was able to use the false edge on the second try and able to cut the bottle in half. Back edge cuts with military sabers like this are actually harder than you might think, so I tried again to see if it's a fluke, and I missed the first time. The second one's not that great either. Trying it on a milk jug where it is much easier to cut, it's just hard to aim with the back edge, so I end up hitting the bottom, but I do it again and I'm able to cut the top off just fine. So that back edge is nice and sharp. One of my favorite ways of testing my own edge alignment on horizontal cuts is going through multiple targets, usually 3 or more, and this one went through no problem. I love cutting multiple targets in one flow. It really challenges your ability to go back to the guards and go back to the basics and be able to throw multiple cuts at once. So I ended up doing 3 at once, a strong side, weak side, and horizontal cut, and this is what happened. That first cut was kind of weak, but I was able to go to the third, and I do it again. And that one is crazy. Watch this. As the bottle falls, I see it falling, and I'm able to cut it in mid-fall. Bam. Sharpening also had a very profound effect on its thrusting capability, because now the tip on both sides of the sword is much sharper. Going into these harder plastic bottles was no problem, and I was even able to retract the sword without the bottle falling off the stand. I hope you've enjoyed this journey into antique swords as much as I have. Owning one and cutting with one gives me a lot of perspective on the art that I practice and the reproduction swords that we end up purchasing. The ability to cut and thrust with a sword that was actually meant for combat is really fun, and I think I've caught the bug and I'm going to do it over and over again. I got nothing else for you guys. Bye.